available inventory. We will hear more about that as we go through this presentation because I'm now arranging things to not necessarily be a present teacher, even though that is happening now after COVID, but to be able to offer an elder's time for whomever that would like to Zoom on a number of different subjects that you're seeing here. This will be again repeated in the interview portion so that any of you who want to look at some of these topics, I'm happy to be a trailblazer and to spend time with people just sitting in my comfortable home chair and sharing like the old days. The elders made themselves available and are happy to be able to have that possibility in their later years. As many of you well know, for some reason, information housed within significant libraries were somehow a threat to something or another. Okay, throughout history, as you can read there, several of the world's greatest ancient and medieval libraries were destroyed by fire, war, notice deliberate cultural erasure. These devastating losses wiped out countless unique manuscripts, scientific works, and historical records. And I've just got a simple picture there of one of the extensive libraries in Egypt. And there were many of them that, for whatever reason, were destroyed. Here is just a reminder that as we are learning about various aspects of what we call spirituality, many of you know that this material is now available. I kept it from release for about 20 years, thinking that there's quite a bit of information that needs to have time to kind of be see if it's going to fit and see if it's going to be requested. And so, as a Native American, certainly it's a bit of a reach for a lot of our Native people to give some room and some benefit from the experience that came to indigenous people around the world. So, as many of you know, this is a title, The Ancient Roots of Christianity. Native Americans look through Christianity. That means looking deeper there. And as I had an arrow there, I'm not really the author. I am the person who has gathered up lots and lots of information and had made it available for my work beside Mary Rainbow Snake Woman to organize it and make it available. Notice there that it is a strong effort. I've had a vision regarding this of a deep research that can be considered. Notice there are 1,074 footnotes and an extensive bibliography. So it's not just something that is in someone's mind thinking it might be valuable. I think that there's ancient ones that are speaking from the dust of Mother Earth, from many traditions that are beginning to open up to what I call the age of revealment. Some of you might not know that what has helped me over the many, many years as I have set in various kinds of roles is that I realized that the Creator didn't really provide a skill of quickly understanding or evaluating what people are like. And so a short story here is that 50 years ago, as I was in circumstances where I needed to be able to understand where people are coming from, I made available to a good friend of mine my time to put together an extensive way of having a journey to understand people. It's called graphology, as you're seeing there. And it has become a valuable information tool, skill for me, because I really wanted to take time to understand people rather than quickly. Some people can do that. They can quickly evaluate what people are like. So you're probably wondering, why am I bringing this up? Well, it means that over the years, I have an extensive inventory now of lots and lots of research that goes all the way back into the old country of Europe. Yeah, let's make a visit, if you will, to what has been, I believe, declared as a real journey of time travel, somewhere in the neighborhood of 2748 there. And because of research that is now beginning to kind of surface a little at a time, I bring this to you to hopefully give us some kind of what I like to always mention, some kind of optimism of our future. And what has been seen is housed within these pictures. An opportunity, maybe, to travel, but have some circumstance uh, uh, put together by technology, by the way, that what has been seen is structures that are in the neighborhood of 2,100 stories high, as well as some kind of gravity technology that makes it also possible for a living circumstance that, well, we're on Mother Earth and we're not sure whether we're on the upside or the downside, but technology has been seen where there could be a mobile uh, mobility as what you're seeing here. In this moment, I want you to just kind of bring the nurturing color of green into a couple of slides because this is what I feel like is helpful to know that even as we're going through lots of growing pains, I call it, the future has been viewed in a way that technology and the green can come into relationship. So let me play this a little bit. Just take time to, it is a little bit fast, but to give you some idea of what has been described and then put into this form. My, look at the green. It's almost like tribalism, where you have separate village circumstances. There used to be over 500 kind of village settings for Native American people and people, indigenous people around the world. But notice how that the description really indicates that there's a strong possibility that technology and the natural can somehow come into a significant relationship in the future. Here's some slides to the state of the movement. I wanted you to kind of see how it looks like, and certainly an extensive presentation of making use of the natural sunlight and a reminder of some kind of almost like villages up in the air. Mhm. And as has been seen, the remnants of what we see today is not occupied. It's just a reminder of what used to be. Here is a presentation as described by a significant time traveler. I hesitate to say very much about that because I haven't had a chance for me to give you some confidence that there has been some significant uh, clues that have been put into these pictures. This is an underground traveling village. You can see the fish there. Interesting. We already in our living rooms are traveling around the world and just sitting there, just somewhat like what this picture is all about. But to be able, we have a lot of water resources that and now we can look at videos of deep in the ocean and see the kinds of things that was not even known to be seen. This is a little bit more. It doesn't. There's some indications of what has been described as a mobile sidewalk. But we'll go on now just to get some idea of this. I like this one because it suggests that the natural is being respected. And even so, that we're beginning to see people having gardens up on top of their buildings now, and certainly nice parks that have been designed a long time ago. But this indicates just a hope, not hope, but a reality, if you will, of how technology and the natural can come into relationship if a person desires to be in that environment. Now, what is now can be spoken of because I've been kind of hesitating because we are, I believe, kind of going through some the growing pains about uh, AI. I call it available inventory. As we've started now, for whatever reason, that inventory was a threat to something or another, and those libraries were intentionally wiped out. So what's described here is, yes, it looks like what we understand as a computer. I would like for you to imagine what it would be like if all of the ancient information from all of the various traditions had a chance to come into storage, into inventory, into something accessible. And that's what's suggested. As you have a little bit of the writing here, it's here's an invite to visit the computer. There is one in every city. Now, I understand that this is going to be kind of uncomfortable to you, but later on, you're going to be finding out that the ancient information, even if it looks like it's been burned down, actually is now able to be revealed. I'll get to that one in a minute. So kind of hang on to the uncomfortable things that we're growing with now. There's one in every city. You need to put on a lead-lined suit that would be completely radiation proof. It was completely floating in the middle, floating of the room, no visible connections to anything in the room that you could see. The interview would be telepathic. So you can see that reaches beyond something that we could even imagine. But that's kind of the nature of what I'd like to offer you here. Not necessarily as something that has been challenged. It is suggested that there have been those in legitimate time travel projects that have been able to go and then come back with this particular information there. What would be the cities like? We're used to having protection things. Well, what is said here is they had hidden weapon systems in the cities. They were installed all over, capable of deflecting and defending an invasion from outer space, but they apparently never had to use them. Now we're talking now about 500 plus years into the future. No data of any invasion or takeovers from the past, very peaceful, and the people were so happy there. People had a choice whether to stay or go elsewhere. It's almost like tribalism in villages that can be visualized long ago. All equipment was designed to last. about 200 years. All of you know that there's economic ploy to this issue. Food was produced for everyone. No threat was remembered. People didn't have to work for anything. In fact, what's been told is that everyone had a responsibility to contribute to the life that they chose to be around. Uh, and they offered their gift in the morning hours, but the afternoon, evening was free time, as it's described here. Notice the next one. The special designers of this, it's kind of recalled that name, there was a major flaw. When everything is free, you lose incentive to create. You lose that creative ability because I guess you're just kind of in the system. And even though you have a responsibility of offering your your gift, this is one of the things that are spoken of. Well, take a little look on this one as we are wondering and finally finding out that what we grew up in our schooling was a short journey for humans. However, as I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but as you can kind of see, that there's various things that are now being discovered that go way beyond what we grew up with. That life began somewhere around 100,000, 150,000, and that's it. They are now finding lots and lots, and that's made it difficult for what do you do with that? How do you explain that there's human-made objects that are dated as you're seeing here? That's quite a question mark of being dated 320 million years ago. Now a video. Scientists with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration say ice in the Arctic is melting at an alarming rate as a result of climate change. These changes are affecting people today. According to the agency's annual report card, average temperatures in the Arctic were the second highest recorded since 1900 when record keeping began. Clear picture reveals significant warming trends in average sea surface temperatures across nearly all of the summer ice-free regions of the Arctic. The unprecedented warming and low levels of sea ice is endangering marine species and commercial fisheries. This and it's trouble not only us hunting and fishing, but the animals that are in the tank. New research also finds Greenland's ice sheet is melting 7 times faster than in the 1990s. The ice loss could contribute to widespread coastal flooding in the years to come. Danya Gake, CBS News, Los Angeles. One of the difficulties that I had as I made a lot of visits with not just one side of America, of the globe, but in other places of the world, I would often hear, oh, we have been here before. What's that mean? Huh. That's something of a surprise to me because now I can kind of put the facts together and suggest that Mother holds a lot of memories. She's only 4.6 billion years old, and it's very likely that we can look at cyclical history, repeating patterns of growth, repeating future anticipation because of this possible we have been here before repeating experiences that Mother Earth has provided for human beings. Let's go to this ancient drawing, as many of you know. It's called, Giveaway Peace Shield Drawing, and it is the teachings of Mother Earth. So, as I suggest, the strong possibility of repeating patterns in cyclical history uh, is going to give us a little bit more of an understanding of repeating patterns. And so that's a little bit of what the Peace Shield. We now have a number of people for not a number of times we had 5 people. Now we have 7 people deep, ready to, as in the old days, make themselves available either present in person or even in a Zoom to offer the teachings of this ancient drawing. Now, here we go with some information that is very new to you people as well as others. And that is, as I was facilitated by this old skill of Europe, that is still very meaningful to them because all of the people in an education program, teaching program, it's required in a number of universities that you take at least one full semester of graphology, making use of the ancient. Now, we're going to step into what I feel like can help us to have some better feeling of AI or available inventory. Let's hear one of the elders that I feel like is helping us. Here we go. Our next lesson is looking about the dangerous side of artificial intelligence that says it shouldn't be thrown out the window altogether. Joining us now is Professor of Theoretical Physics and author of the new book Quantum Supremacy, Michio Kaku. Great to have you on the show, Michio. Let's begin there. What's the problem with AI? What worries you the most? You can, of course, see the download there, 33,000. So to see this presentation, it was probably in the neighborhood of a couple of years ago. Well, let's break it down to the good news and the bad news. The good news is that robots increase productivity. They increase profits. They increase efficiency. They're very fast. And so companies can be making a killing on robots. But there's a downside. You see, these chatbots are like tape recorders. They don't know right from wrong. They don't know truth from untruth. And as a consequence, they can spit out nonsense. And you can also impersonate things. Now, imagine what happens if a chatbot impersonates Vladimir Putin and declares war on Idaho. You're talking about havoc coming out if a teenage boy tries to monkey around with a chatbot. So all of the chatbots have to be regulated. Now, we don't want the politicians to get into this because it's going to mess everything up. We want self-regulation. We want fact-checking. We want a new class of robots called quantum robots, quantum computers that can act as a fact checker for digital computers so that we know the difference between true and false, right and wrong, and still make profits, still increase productivity. Are we on the wrong course? Do you think we're developing this technology without really thinking it through? To your point, yes, AI could intimidate someone and lead to world war, God forbid. But overall, are we running kind of headfirst into this without really thinking about the consequences? Yes, I think we should think things through. Look at freedom of speech. You cannot hear fire in a crowded theater. There are consequences to free speech. So we regulate it, but we don't use the heavy hand of the government to shut down every single feature. No, we allow freedoms to exist, but they're ground rules. Ground rules that you can't, fire in the middle of a movie. And the same thing with artificial intelligence. The things are here to stay. Expensive. They're not going to go away. But we can have self-regulation. We can pass laws that are wise and be able to harness the power of this. And with the next generation of computers, quantum computers, we should be able to do this seamlessly. So we don't have to shut down
what we have today with robots. So robots are not going to go away. They're here to stay, but some innovation and fact checking is required. Very like to leave it right there. So thank you so much, Michio, for joining us. And I feel a little better. We just got to make sure we've got a handle on how this is developing. Thank you so much for joining us. On that,
Interesting, that was Fox News business thing. Look at this slide because this is new for me. I found this out about 4 years ago and kind of waiting to see how I could be helpful in this in times of AI that they are now able to not have to open up the manuscripts as you're seeing here. AI, for some reason, is able to, because once you open them up, they fall apart. AI has now made it possible to reach into the ancient information without opening it up. Now, I put in here about the word that usually is associated with the end times kinds of things, but actually the real meaning of apocalypse is all things shall be revealed. Let's begin this process and listen and watch this.
what if I told you that the past is not silent anymore? What if ancient messages, buried for thousands of years, are finally speaking again? Today, science and AI are opening secrets that were once impossible to read. Burned books, lost languages, hidden warnings. In this video, you will discover 6 ancient messages that science still struggles to fully explain. Let's begin with a miracle born from fire. The burned library that came back to life. In the year 79 AD, a deadly volcano called Mount Vesuvius exploded. One Roman city, Herculaneum, was hit by a wave of burning gas so hot that everything should have disappeared. Wood, cloth, paper, all gone. But something impossible happened. Inside a rich villa was a huge library filled with scrolls made of papyrus. Instead of turning into ash, the scrolls were burned into black carbon rolls. They looked like pieces of coal. For nearly 2,000 years, they stayed hidden underground. When people finally found them, they made a terrible mistake. They tried to open the scrolls by hand. The moment they touched them, the scrolls broke into dust. Hundreds of ancient books were destroyed forever. It seemed like the rest would never be read. Then modern science changed everything. Scientists used powerful X-ray machines to scan inside the scrolls without opening them. But there was another problem. The ink was also made of carbon, black ink on black paper. Human eyes could not see the words, so they brought in artificial intelligence. AI was trained to detect tiny texture changes left by ink on the papyrus fibers. These changes are invisible to humans, but clear to machines. In 2023, something incredible happened. The first word appeared on the screen after 2,000 years of silence. The scroll talked about philosophy, food, music, and how to enjoy life. Imagine that. A message about happiness survived one of the deadliest disasters in history. And here's the crazy part. Experts believe there are still thousands of unread scrolls buried under the villa. But
Okay. Well, the reason I just had a little bit of opening to graphology, handwriting analysis, is that I have an extensive library of the old writings and research in books, not the today presentations. But in order to properly evaluate a particular personality characteristic, it's important to have good references. And that's what it means, is being able to have a number of references and then bring all that information together. Now we look at maybe, not maybe, it sounds like the ancient ones are speaking from the ancient rolls and the ancient libraries in some places that have been preserved, as you're seeing here.
what if I fire protected ancient knowledge once? The next mystery will show you how the desert protected a secret even bigger. The Bible scroll that was written by 2 hidden hands. In 1947, a young shepherd was walking in the desert looking for his lost goat. Out of boredom, he threw a stone into a cave. Instead of hearing a goat, He heard something break. Inside the cave were clay jars, and inside those jars were ancient scrolls. These became famous as the Dead Sea Scrolls, the oldest copies of Bible texts ever found. Some of them were more than 2,000 years old. For historians, this was like finding the original draft of a holy book. One scroll was special, the Great Isaiah Scroll. It was almost perfectly preserved, more than 7 meters long. Experts studied it for decades. Everyone believed it was written by one single person because the handwriting looked the same from start to end. But the human eye can be fooled. Scientists decided to test this using AI. They scanned thousands of letters from the scroll. The computer did not look at the letters as symbols. It measured tiny details.
Just as in graphology, you don't read the words, you look at the strokes and the manner that things are put together. I'll try to start that here.
2,000 years ago, there was a powerful empire in Central Asia called the Kushan Empire. It controlled trade routes, ruled rich lands, and connected east and west. But when the empire fell, something strange happened. Its language vanished. In the 1950s, archaeologists found stone writings in Afghanistan and nearby regions. The symbols looked similar to Greek letters, but when experts tried to read them, nothing made sense. It was not Greek. It was not Persian. It was not any known language. For more than 70 years, these messages stayed silent. Some people even believed it was fake writing, just copied symbols with no real meaning. Others thought it was a secret religious code. No one knew the truth. Then in 2023, scientists tried a new idea. Instead of forcing translation rules, they used artificial intelligence to search for repeating patterns. In every ancient kingdom, kings repeat their titles. Words like great king or royal names usually appear again and again. The AI found one repeated symbol group. Researchers guessed it might be the name of a famous Kushan ruler. They tested this theory, and suddenly the language started opening up like a locked door. The system compared the unknown text with nearby bilingual inscriptions written in known languages. Piece by piece, the meaning became clear. The result? This was not fake writing. It was a real, completely unknown ancient language, a lost branch of Iranian languages. Millions of people once spoke it. Today, scientists have already decoded more than half of the symbols. They can now read royal titles, battle records, and official messages of the Kushan kings. After 2,000 years of silence, an entire civilization found its voice again. But what if
you might have been able to pick up Iran and all the old writings that are known to that country that used to be called Persia. So the past is revealing itself. Let's go on to the next 2,000 here.
It's been decades since the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered. Around 80 new fragments of the ancient texts have been revealed to the public.
They said some scrolls were lost to time, but what if AI just found what wasn't meant to be read? In 2021, archaeologists risked everything to reach a cave seen for 60 years.
I'm here from the cave. You hear me?
I hear you.
Come quickly. We've discovered amazing things.
Really? What'd you find?
What they uncovered wasn't just scripture. It was a story buried on purpose, written in Greek, marked in Hebrew, hidden for a reason. Then the machines stepped in. They filled the blanks, encoded the silence. What they revealed? We're not ready. AI just cracked the Dead Sea Scrolls, and it's worse than we thought.
It found columns of text in ancient Greek seen for the first time in almost 2,000 years.
Silence has been replaced by something louder. And for those holding on to old certainties, things are about to get uncomfortable. Zechariah wants us what is to come, from the rebuilding of the temple and Jerusalem to a coming Messianic king, and was sent into the cave of horror. Let's look at where it all started. To get into the cave, researchers had to rappel straight down a steep 80-meter drop from the cliff's edge. It wasn't just risky, it was physically demanding. But for Orrin Edelman and his team at the Israel Antiquities Authority, the effort was worth it. Hidden deep in those rocks were fragments of ancient texts, and not just any texts. These were pieces of the Dead Sea Scrolls, small, brittle scraps that had somehow survived centuries of heat, decay, and silence. Edelman admitted that what they found wasn't much in size. These are tiny scraps, he said, but even scraps can say a lot when placed in the right order. The team managed to reassemble some of them like a jigsaw puzzle. Slowly, phrases and meanings began to return to life, offering a rough idea of what once was. The cave where all this happened is known officially as Cave 8, but most call it something else, the Cave of Horror. That name wasn't chosen at random. It came from what was found inside.
Okay. I'm going to include in my editing some slides that I'm going to make it full presentation, but I'm going to skip to this one. Okay. So,
And now, there's something else at play. Artificial intelligence is being used to analyze these fragments in a way no human ever could. And what it's uncovering? The child, the basket, and the scrolls. Hidden beneath the dry earth and dust of time, the cave slowly began revealing parts of a world long gone. Alongside the scroll fragments, archaeologists came across something deeply personal. Near the cave's entrance, just beneath two flat stones, they uncovered the mummified remains of a child. Estimated to be between 6 and 12 years old, the child's body was placed carefully in a fetal position, its head and torso wrapped in cloth. The feet remained exposed. Clutched in its hands was another piece of fabric. The way the child had been laid to rest suggested someone had buried it with care. Tests later confirmed that the remains were roughly 6,000 years old. This discovery was remarkable not only because of the age, but also because of the state of preservation. The dry air inside the cave kept the body intact and frozen in time. Researchers believe that climate and burial technique had played a role in how well it lasted through the centuries. The small body, wrapped and resting just beneath the earth, felt like a message from another era.
love that suggestion there again. And then I'm going to go to this slide, and I have written some things there to have you look at. There can be some discussions with this slide, and I'm happy to have discussions with you because this is what some of the things that are being revealed, and I'm happy to let you just email me, rainboweagle72@gmail.com. I'm happy to sit with you, Zoom with you, and talk about some of the changes in our thinking and theology that this presents. This is the last slide.
One thing became difficult to ignore. Certain Roman biblical books simply didn't appear. The book of Esther was nowhere to be found. A book so central in Jewish tradition was completely missing. The same applied to the books of Chronicles, which were vital in tracing priestly bloodlines in royal history. Were these texts forgotten or intentionally left out? It didn't end there. As more Greek fragments were scanned and studied, more surprises began to appear. Some verses were clearly not part of the traditional Septuagint. They mentioned unusual events and unfamiliar figures. A few passages even shifted the tone completely, moving from divine command toward Greek agreement. Other texts leaned more toward community rituals instead of centralized worship. That alone hinted at deeper divisions. Then came the most surprising turn. Verses that once pointed toward messianic promises were softened or entirely rewritten. In their place appeared strong warnings about moral decline, about shared responsibility during difficult times. Were these people responding to chaos in real time? Were they preparing each other to face a world already beginning to collapse? AI helped connect the clues. This wasn't just a scribal mistake. The changes were careful, repeated, and intentional. Handwriting styles differed, ink mixtures changed, and the rhythm of the language shifted, almost like different voices speaking across time. What slowly emerged was a patchwork of beliefs, a scroll here, a verse there, all shaped by competing groups. Some groups looked toward a future savior, while others focused on survival. Some wanted the past restored, while others seemed ready to reshape it. Instead of one heavy movement, it began to look more like a network of people scattered across the desert, each carrying fragments of their own understanding of truth. Some tried to preserve tradition, while others reshaped it quickly. The goal became less about strict religious teaching and more about urgent adaptation. People were trying to hold on to what mattered while everything around them was falling apart. Through this lens, the scrolls stopped being quiet historical records. They started to look like evidence of people caught in conflict, rewriting their world word by word. The scrolls that challenged scripture. The deeper researchers went with the scrolls, the clearer it became that this wasn't a single tidy religious archive. It looked more like a collection of voices, influenced by the moment they lived in. The kinds of scrolls discovered and even the ones missing began pointing in one direction. The sacred texts we recognize today didn't simply appear fully formed. They were debated, copied, altered, and passed down through generations. A large portion of the scrolls focuses on biblical writings, but there is an important detail. Back then, there was no single Bible. That word, the idea, didn't even exist yet. So, what exactly were they copying? And who decided what counted as sacred? What scholars discovered suggests the Bible was never an untouchable block of divine instruction. It was shaped just as much by politics, fear, and the world surrounding those who preserved it. And the edits weren't small. They didn't simply polish the text. Some scrolls shifted the meaning of commandments entirely. Others rearranged historical events. Certain passages sounded more like they came from human agreement rather than divine authority. And when artificial intelligence stepped in to analyze thousands of manuscript fragments, comparing them with other ancient versions like the Septuagint, the Masoretic text, and the Samaritan Pentateuch, it revealed even more cracks beneath the surface. Entire sections of scripture many would expect to find were missing. Books like Esther and Chronicles, which will wait in modern tradition, were nowhere to be seen. Why would someone go to all that trouble to protect sacred writings and then leave those ones out? The Greek language fragments added even more questions. At first glance, they were believed to be familiar translations, but a closer look revealed passages no one had ever seen before. Some introduced unfamiliar figures and mysterious events. Others softened or altered commandments, focusing more on community rituals than temple authority. The tone changed too. Messianic hopes weren't emphasized. Instead, some texts leaned into collective ethics or apocalyptic warnings. Suggest some groups were rewriting religion as they saw fit? Or was it a reflection of chaos and fear in the years after Jerusalem fell? Some texts elevated rituals that differed from the mainstream. Others described creation in a way that seemed completely unfamiliar. One version told of a universe born not from divine peace, but from conflict between cosmic powers. That's not something you would expect to find in the background of today's faith systems, but it was there. The Dead Sea Scrolls, when broken down like this, show something far more complicated than one group's religious archive. They are the result of centuries of editing, conflict, and compromise. Ideas clashed, power shifted, and texts were erased, added, or reshaped depending on who held the pen.
So as we consider that, as much as it's hard to imagine, what's taking place is a part of a possible repeating pattern of civilization. Some of you know that I use the pendulum once in a while as a way of being able to shift the position of what's called duality. And as the pendulum has been, a lot of more of a personal spirituality is emphasized as the writings were there. A lot of personal regard for how life is going to go. And then the pendulum needed to, and this is not easy, to shift all the way over to a single theology, as you find with the coming of the uh, 320, 312 Constantine and the coming of the Catholic, the Roman Empire. The Catholic Church was then became the single source for this spiritual philosophy. And now the pendulum is swinging back in the direction of more diversity, more concern for a person and a circumstance and a village. And the possibility, as I started out with those pictures, is that there can be some kind of relationship of those things, of a singular religion and a diversified look at life. Somehow in the middle of that pendulum, there can be both phenomena coming into relationship, as I have suggested with the pictures of the green and the pictures of how technology, again, I would really, I have been blessed with what has been shared with me that represents some of the ancient inventory that is now beginning to kind of surface. That inventory is incomplete, but is it possible that there could be a single resource, as I've suggested with the uh, computer up in the air, of how to access all of that which was destroyed intentionally, all that was helpful for some a sense of life, and to be able to have that single resource of AI, and I choose to use the word available inventory. So that's what I wanted to offer you all today. I'll get back here and see if there's something that you'd like to have some discussion. But that's the major part of my presentation. Okay, good to see you again. Hi. Okay, wow. Yeah. And what's nice is that lots of times organizations and religious hopefulness relies on people who come. But now we have a way of being able to spread the good news in an interesting technical way. And again, I make myself available for anyone that would like to reach to me to have more discussion of what I have suggested here. But in this moment, I'm happy to see if there's something that you would like to throw in my direction. So come on.
Is there any questions for Rainbow Eagle?
Yep.
Well, I got one.
Okay.
So I understand the Dead Sea Scrolls were found. Have you done much research into the recent Göbekli Tepe findings? The underground city that was buried. Do you have any more information to offer kind of in that regard and how that may correlate with what was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls?
Okay. The Hopi have a suggestion of times that Mother Earth needed to go through some adjustments, and so there's a pattern of we are going to reside underground until Mother Earth goes through her adjustment time, kind of like a menstrual period, if you will. So that phenomenon, and there is a whole discussion now that's why did there in Turkey, I believe, have such an underground facility that could house over 20,000 people and resources for animals and a way of being able to, as well as air vents. So we had a number of suggestions. That's the whole discussion that I'm happy to step with people about is that there is around the world a need to be out of the surface of Mother Earth. Interesting study. Whenever the statues of Easter Island As they dug down, they found that there's 2/3 more that is trying to tell people about those Easter Island statues that was underground. That's the clue. So underground understanding may get kind of sticky. And of course, back in the 1950s, there was this scare, and we all had to get some kind of underground facility because of the atomic bomb stuff. But yes, Casey, there is more for us to understand about ancient traditions that made sure that they would survive. It looked like they were surviving from their enemy when more than likely they just knew that it was another repeating pattern of life. Now, I have a video of in India, they have discovered a underground indication. It's you see the layers of Mother Earth's her history. That in I think the 14th layer, it clearly indicates that there was a quick happening because there's burnt on the people of the skeletons on one side and on one side of the rocks, as if there was an atomic power, atomic energy that took place. Probably, as the pictures are indicating in India, something that happened up in the air that caused the happening there. Okay, thank you for that. And again, there is more that I think the more information we have, the more we're going to recover our optimism and our willingness to say there is a great design for Mother Earth in a repeating patterns of life. Life begets life begets life. And getting past that strong theology of one lifetime or death was a theology that was not found in the indigenous people at all. They had confidence, as a Hawaiian grandmother said, we're just merely changing addresses. Whenever we Native American people, it's like we're changing worlds.
Yeah.
So see, life begets life begets life. Being able to adjust to that pendulum swinging to a terrible event of death, but more of the Creator's design is that life will continue. You cannot kill the spirit. Another comment or something that you'd like to have a little visit with? I'm happy to do this. I don't want to make it too long for you, but it's great to see you. I would like to see live people. I mean, spiritually alive people like merging hearts and always good. Okay. Anything else? I like the smile. I appreciate that.
Um, Yesterday I was listening to a YouTube from Greg Braden. You familiar with Greg Braden? And this,
I have sat with him.
yeah, and he put this video out a year ago, and it was about the use of AI, just similar to your presentation, which I found synchronistic, of understanding the Torah and he described some things that at the 23-minute mark that just kind of blew my head up. It was like a dynamic modeling analysis of the Torah that basically described the Torah as telling the past, present, and the future, depending on the timeline, the interweaving of timelines. It's like, it was very interesting. But the thing that he was getting to on the good and the bad of use of AI, he felt that the AI, there's people out there that are using AI to rewrite the Bible. And he felt that was going to be very unsettling for a lot of people. But it was just interesting that, especially about the Torah, about how the way he described the timelines are in the lettering of the Torah. When the AI analyzed everything, it indicated that there's no way a human being could have written that Torah.
Okay. Well, as we avail ourselves to our lifetime, we are seeing diversity having a place in our understanding of life. Yet, the design by the Creator for planet Earth was to have diversity and be able to realize that there was not a single Dead Sea Scrolls resource. And so any single resource is going to be difficult to even put together another Bible. You see, that's a nice comment to make. But as you're quickly realizing, there was no single gospel way back around the Mediterranean Sea. It was very diverse. And yet, look around us. Life with the different religions and the different thought processes, how we're going to somehow come into relationship. And that's a part of a prophecy of how is it that indigenous, including you guys, indigenous resources found in many traditions have a chance to work together to come back into relationship of differences and appreciations for some common themes that can be found out. Common themes and diversity, bringing that into balance is called the prophecy of the seventh fire. I appreciate what you have said there. I'm open if you're game. Looks like you haven't fallen asleep yet, but sure would like to have some conversation.
I've got another one. So I mean, when you look at even the stories of the Bible, I mean, how can we with confidence say that is truly history when what you're kind of laying out here is that in history has kind of proven that stories have changed through different cultures. And so how can we truly know that any of these artifacts, these documents are true? Really, it's just a testament of somebody's experience, or at least the way they want to tell the story. And then building from that, are we supposed to know the history of what actually happened, or are we supposed to maybe focus on life as it is today and just trying to make this world better? So I guess I'm kind of curious what your thoughts are there. Is there really a need to focus on history and what may or may not have been misconstrued as being a righteous path for those individuals in that time?
Okay, the pendulum you see in its natural process is that it's going to come into extreme, but the confidence that the other side is going to be pulling it out of that extreme position. The extreme of a one church, one theology, one religion, you see, has been emphasized now. And the pendulum is now shifting to diversity and individual spirituality rather than a group membership spirituality. One of the appreciations I've had for merging hearts is that somehow you have created something of allowing diversity to come into relationship with each other.
Yeah.
And to see that is possible whenever there begin to be diverse religious systems like your system. So it is reaching a point where diversity is once again put into spiritual terms. Okay, but we are in a time of developing confidence in our own look at things. We can decide for ourselves with the relationship with the divine of what we want to walk with. So it's a time of personal spiritual development.
So
You see, that makes it difficult for groups to hang in there because there's people who fall away, as you all know. So it's a development of personal spirituality. Go ahead.
I was going to say, so that seems like it lends itself more towards individual truth instead of universal truth.
Yep. Well, to see that individual thing is declared in other religions as something earthy and something selfish. That's another one of those pendulum things that it's not selfishness. It's being able to develop confidence that I'm going to go with what I feel, what resonates with me. Okay. The second part of that is to be able to have some people that you can share your personal with in the old days with an elder that was so open to lots of conversation without judgment. We don't have that combination now very much of individual development and a shared relationship with someone you should talk with and not seen as a role of wisdom. It's being able to put things on the table and discuss it. I see how that in our personal life, we have found such persons once in a while that we just kind of sit with outside of the interesting dilemma of judgment or even wisdom. I'm putting things on the table. I'm not even, suggesting that I'm a person of wisdom. You decide what is what you're going to walk with. Okay, a few more minutes. We're, I'm game. I'm just sitting here, so I'm just happy to be this way. Okay, Maddie.
I guess when Casey was saying about ancient or getting things from ancient history, is that what you're saying? Yeah. From the past. But I guess when I think about what I want to, believe myself, I do get ideas from all that information. And then I can pick what I believe. I mean, I can pick whether I want to believe the Bible or Dead Sea Scrolls or whatever else comes up. So I think it's important to know that stuff from the past too. You know, otherwise, I mean, I don't know. I don't get anything from this nothing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And have to, I need ideas. I need all kinds of philosophies and beliefs, and then make my own
Interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what resonates with
We live in a time whenever we can find nurturing in a number of belief systems,
right.
thing that resonates with a person.
Right.
And that's quite a move. When you come out of the agricultural 100 years ago, where you were born into a particular spiritual path or philosophy, and you weren't allowed to step out of those paths. So there is optimism here. Go ahead.
We have a study on Tuesday with theology professor Paul, and just listening to these stories. I mean, I grew up with a Bible and but listening to how he presents them, I realized that, basically during the Bible times, it was very masculine view. And when the things that happened in those times is the perspective of that writer that who wrote that book from a male point of view, usually. So I find that, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Um, it's to me, it's not the gospel truth. It's from the perspective of that person who's writing and their experiences. Is for Esther, right? Yeah. But Esther is in the Bible. Right. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. Taking it somewhere else.
Okay, well, see, some of these are very eye-opening.
Yeah.
Just what I presented here in a short way is not going to find a place in very many other places because they're still needing to have a group spirituality rather than a personal right to have your own belief system. Now, in the Native American way, each person before they were 15 had a particular ceremony to identify their personal purpose in life, their vision. And so, see, in a lot of ways, it was already a pendulum to the importance of your personal contribution in the midst of the village and the group of consciousness there. Okay, I'm still game. I'm just sitting here happy. I don't have to get in the car and drive home.
I have another thought. Nobody else.
Okay. Yeah.
I think AI is good and bad. AI. And I agree with somebody said about we have not found ethics with it yet. We have not established the ethics with AI. And there's a lot of law. But
yeah, there's some real ifs.
And then when there's problems, that's when you try to solve.
Because in the pendulum, going to a personal power, which you probably have an idea of that, there's the whole ethical thing that has to be recovered in that personal power desire that some people have. It's that old system of I want power as a king, so you have to listen and obey. Those are interesting comments that whenever there is this emphasis, this spirit of you better obey or you're going to get burned. Whoa, that was a very useful theology for the growing, repeating pattern of kingship and queenship. And so it was neat to be able to redesign some of the writing and add some of this flavor of God is going to do, and you have to obey, otherwise consequences. Interesting, the dilemma. You lost your right to choose, and whatever you choose, there's something beneficial that you can add to your spiritual growth. Well, great stuff. Got another one? Let's pick one more. Maybe I see it go. Mrs. Purple. No.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful not to lose our human It's like one of your slides talked about, everything's given to you, you lose your sense of creativity, the desire to create. And with our humanness, pondering whether it's text or a hawk overhead or the waves that crash into the beach and pondering what does that mean to you and then taking it once you have your answers of discernment through all these ways diversity looking at it for the greater good too as far as so then how can I use whatever I learned from whatever source then for the greater good or the next 7 generations, whatever it might be. I think and that's where you get the community things. That requires community-based talking together about ways to improve so ways to be better.
Okay. Well, Casey, you sure you don't have another question for me?
I guess probably one element of concern when you talk about regulation of AI. I guess from what I've seen from experience is that what regulation tends to do is just reassociate power to somebody else, to a directed group for profitability. So I understand the intention behind regulation, but I think it's always done through the various means, generally speaking, because what you find is that regulation is then put into a private corporation in which individuals can invest in. And that's where I think we struggle as a society with what regulation truly is intended for and how to do it properly.
See, this, ever since the caveman put a rock on a stick and a rock on a sword, there's been this pursuit for power.
Yeah.
And power is very present now and it's going to go to an extreme. But that power role, I'm not talking about any particular person, I'm talking around the world. That whole reach for power is going to run its course. Okay, and so that's just a quick possible thing that we've been here before.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be easy to see how that a national attitude of pride is going to shift to, I want to be me. I want to have the lifestyle that I am comfortable with. So it's a balance of, I want to make sense of my life. And it doesn't have to be dependent upon a congregation. It's a part of it, but it's a balance there. Well, guys, I appreciate this moment with you. Maddie, I can tell you was going to say something. What? No.
No, I was just thinking that I want to see a society where we're all being equally given choices and not just one part of the population.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hey, I would like to say that I would like to come in person again.
Yes.
I don't.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm also thinking that I would like to come in, and I'm going to check with Maddie on a Saturday evening, and then be able to have a nice, easy way of coming in and seeing people and talking. So I'm just saying, I'm not opposed to the driving in, but I appreciate the flavor of Merging Hearts for the many, many years that I've connected with you. Ever since the train block out the sounds of everything. Yeah. Okay, guys.
So you would need to stay overnight, right? You would stay overnight?
Yep. Yep. Mm-hmm.
To work that out, why don't you get a hold of Lisa Lee and she can try to work. We can talk with that through the board, see how we can make arrangements for you. And we're very happy to have you here, and we'll do whatever we can to accommodate.
Well, in my language, which is Ola Choctaw, we say the word Anekpili Kipisa, Anekpili Kipisa, which means let us think on these things.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Have a good midday lunch. Love to have these moments with you. So take care. I will also check to see what would be appropriate to send out to other people that you might want that. I see a lady in the back there with her hand. Was that anything? Anything? No. Okay.
Just wait a while.
You can wave at me now.
Right here.
See you. All right, we're done. Thank you.
Hi.